وننزل من القرآن ما هو شفاء ورحمة للمؤمنين ولا يزيد الظالمين إلا خسارا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. I begin in the name of the Almighty Allah, the Compassionate, the Merciful, the one who has created everything in utmost perfection. And may the peace and blessings of the Almighty God be upon His pure and beloved Messenger, the peak of His creation, the symbol of humanity, the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alih, and his immaculate progeny of the Ahlul Bayt, peace be upon them, especially the leader of our time, the awaited Savior, Al-Imam Al-Mahdi Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajah. May Allah hasten his reappearance and make us all amongst his sincere and dedicated servants. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We continue our series of exploring the gems of Nahj al-Balagha, the words of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the commander of the faithful, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. From here, Masjid al-Kufa, where Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam gave many of these beautiful sermons. When we hear the words of the Imam, it's very impactful to visualize the Imam, to imagine the Imam standing on the pulpit of Masjid al-Kufa and sharing these words of wisdom with the people. And how blessed were those people to sit here and listen to the Imam of their time, to look at the face of the Imam of their time, and to listen to the Imam directly. We who have come centuries after the Imams, over 1,000 years, we do a great deal of research as scholars to figure out what the Imam said. Is this hadith authentic or not? What is the chain of transmission? We examine the content. Is it a valid content? But imagine if you were to hear the words of truth directly from the blessed mouth of the Imam of your time. What an honor that would be. As we continue our journey of examining the gems of Nahj al-Balagha, I would like to share with you beautiful words of advice from Sermon 134 of Nahj al-Balagha. In this very beautiful sermon, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam offers us beautiful lessons about this life and about our attitude on this life. How should your outlook on life be? What should your perspective on life be? The Imam alayhi salam begins by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he says, Alhamdulillah alladhi akhadha wa a'ta. I praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for two qualities. Allah gives and He takes. When Allah gives you, thank Him. How many times have we thanked Allah for the blessings that He's given us? The gift of health, the gift of wealth, access to education, having a roof beneath which you sleep, shelter, friends, Iman. One of the greatest blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the blessing of Iman. Many blessings Allah has given us. Are you grateful to Allah? Truly, from the sincerity of your heart, do you show gratitude to God? But then sometimes Allah takes. He may take some of your health. You fall ill. You are diagnosed, God forbid, with a chronic illness. Do you break down and you lose hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Or you realize this is a trial for you, and through this trial, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to elevate your soul. Sometimes Allah may take some of your wealth. Allah may take a loved one and a loved one dies. Are you going to give up and object to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Ya Allah, why did my father, my mother, my spouse, my brother, my sister, my best friend die? Imam Ali alayhi salam thanks Allah for all of that. Oh Allah, I thank you for what you give, and I thank you when you take. Because I know when you take, there's wisdom in it. You're training me. You're teaching me the value of life, the value of these blessings. And the reality is, we don't know the value of something unless we lose it. When do you really appreciate the value of health? When you sleep sick one night. When you're diagnosed with an illness, then you come to appreciate the gift of health. When do you appreciate the rain? When it's raining year-round? No. When there's a drought. When your life depends on the rain. When your crops are depending on the rain. That's when people know the value of rain. When do you know the value of freedom? When it's taken from you. When do you know the value of wealth? When you lose your wealth. Just as you thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the blessings that He's given you, thank Allah when He takes something from you. Say, Ya Allah, I'm content. It's okay. If that's your will, I accept it. Don't be upset. لكي لا تأسوا على ما فاتكم ولا تفرحوا بما آتاكم. The Quran lays down this principle. When you get something, thank Allah, but don't be excessively joyful and jubilant, because that is an indication of materialism. You got a nice paycheck, a job, a car, a gadget, a new iPhone, and you become ecstatic as if you've received the whole universe. So what? What's the big deal? Money comes and goes, wealth comes and goes. You think you own wealth? You're just borrowing it for a few days and then you lose it. And then when you lose something, when you miss something, it's okay, it's not the end of the universe. Don't be too upset. لكي لا تأسوا على ما فاتكم. Don't be too upset. No, there is goodness in it. It's okay, Allah will compensate you with something else. Allah is training you. Sometimes that's how you train someone. You take away something from that person, and that person is trained to know the value of it and not to be distracted by it and to think of something more noble. And then the Imam alayhi salam states, وَعَلَى مَا أَبْلَى وَابْتَلَى. I also thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the spiritual blessings that He's given us, and also for the trials and difficulties that we go through. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you knowledge, has given you spirituality, has given you faith. Thank Allah. And then if you run into trouble, thank Allah. That's okay. These are beautiful words of advice from the commander of the faithful, Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Then the Imam alayhi salam says the following. I would like to share with you the very text of this sermon. Al-alimu bima tukinnu as-sudur wama takhunu al-uyun. One of the qualities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that He knows what is hidden in the hearts, what is hidden in your intention, in your mind. Only Allah knows your true intentions. Even if you're my best friend and I know a lot about you, there are some things I don't know about the depths of your heart and intentions. You may be having certain thoughts I'm not aware of. You may be planning of something I'm not aware of. You may have a certain perception of me I'm not aware of. But Allah is the one who knows what's hidden in the hearts. Don't ever think you can deceive God or fool God. You can fool yourself to an extent, of course. You can fool others to a great extent, but you can never fool Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Always know when you're planning and thinking, especially when you're coming up with evil schemes to hurt someone, to ruin someone's reputation. Remember, Allah is there and He's aware of what goes on in your mind and in your heart. When you show off and you don't do something sincerely for Allah, you do it for fame and recognition and reputation, you think Allah is not aware of that? Be very careful. Have respect for Allah who knows your intentions. If people knew our intentions, sometimes we'd be very embarrassed and we change them. Imagine if there was some sort of device or detector that broadcasts your intentions. It shows your intentions. I think a lot of us would stay at home. We would not want to go out there in public for our intentions to be exposed, because we know how embarrassing it is. Should we not be embarrassed from Allah, who's always with us? So always improve your intention, purify your intention, because Allah is aware of what's hidden in the hearts, in the chests. Then the Imam ﷺ says, and the treachery of the eye. The Holy Quran calls it kha'inat al-a'yun, the khiyana of the eyes. Allah is aware of the betrayal and the treachery of the eye. Let's stop at this passage in Nahj al-Balagha and try to better understand what the Imam is communicating to us here. Not only is Allah aware of your intentions, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also aware of the treachery of the eyes. What is the treachery of the eye? There are numerous understandings and applications of what the treachery of the eye is. One application and understanding of the treachery of the eye is when you, in a subtle way, mock someone using your eyes. Have you seen sometimes in a gathering, friends are sitting, and then one friend looks at another friend and he gives him a certain signal with his eyes to make fun of someone? That's kha'inat al-a'yun. That is the treachery of the eye. Allah is aware of that. You did it in a very subtle way, only your friend saw it. Well, Allah is aware of it and He will hold you accountable for it. Because mocking others, ridiculing others is a major sin in the eyes of God. Or sometimes you give someone the dirty look. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware of that. Be aware of how you behave, even when it comes to the glance of the eye. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware of that. Another dimension, application of the treachery of the eye is when you betray the modesty and the chastity of people. How so? When you look at the opposite gender who is not lawful to you, and you scan their face and their body, and you look at them with lust, this is an act of betrayal, because you, as a decent Muslim, as a believer, you should never do that. Or sometimes you stumble upon a picture of a Muslim woman who observes the full hijab, but you have access to it. And you fall into the temptation of shaitan and you see her. Or let's say you visit a friend, a cousin, someone, and there's a lady sitting in a room and she's not aware of it, and you peek to look at her. That's the treachery and the betrayal of the eye. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware of it. Another dimension, application of the treachery of the eye, is when you snoop on someone, spy on someone. In our era, we've got one challenge or dilemma with people who snoop. Sometimes you have your smartphone in your hand, you're looking at it, you're checking your messages, you're on the internet, and then someone snoops on you. Someone tries to get a glance of what you're browsing, what you're typing. That is the treachery of the eye. Snooping on someone without their permission is haram. That's a sin. We take it lightly. We don't care, but that's a sin. That's the treachery and the betrayal of the eye. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala holds us accountable for that. You're violating the trust of that person, the privacy of that person. No one gave you the authorization to snoop on someone and to monitor their activities and to sneak and spy on them. I remember once I was in the haram of Imam Hussein alayhi salam in Karbala, and I had finished my ziyarah. I was checking my messages. Some people have some urgent questions, or they want, istikhara, the khira for it to be performed in the haram. So I was going through some of the messages and answering them. And then a man who was towering over me, I realized, he said salam to me and he told me, Sayyid, I seek your apology. I told him, why? What did you do? He's like, I was snooping over you. I was curious. Who are you messaging? What are you doing with your phone? And I realized you're typing in English. I don't even know what you're typing. But I wanted to apologize because I realized what I did was wrong. I should not have snooped over you. But this is something that we commonly do with friends, with family. And one of the greatest trials is with your spouse. Spouses think they can spy on each other. Do you know that it is haram to spy on your spouse? You're monitoring your spouse. Your spouse goes, you somehow break into their phone, or you find the password, or they leave it on. Your spouse goes into the kitchen, into the bathroom, and you take out the phone and you go through the phone. That's haram. Who authorized you to go through your spouse's phone? What, you think you own your spouse? You live with your spouse. Well, you don't own your spouse. If your husband or wife has a phone, has a laptop, you're not allowed to go through it. Even your elderly children who are of age and they're mature, you can't spy on them. Just because your children doesn't authorize you to spy on them. The only exception is if they're in imminent danger. There are indications, there's a bad friend who's pulling your son into drugs, into immorality, and you need to know what they're up to. Okay, because that is driven by protection. You want to protect the well-being of your son or daughter from imminent danger, right? And there are strong indications that's happening. Then, for the sake of protecting them, you can monitor what they're doing to protect them from danger. Other than that, you have no right to spy on others. Spouses cannot spy on each other and snoop on each other and try to figure out, who they're texting, what they're saying. I've heard about some husbands when the wife, sometimes thinks she's privately speaking to her mom, he's trying to hear every word. And he even records those phone calls. What she's saying to her sisters. I want to know what they're up to, what they're saying about me. It's none of your business. Mind your own thing. Go do something productive. Don't waste your time trying to figure out who's thinking how of you. That is wrong. Spying is wrong. The Quran bans spying. وَلَا تَجَسَّسُوا. Do not spy on one another. So the Imam alayhi salam here warns us. Allah is aware of the treachery of the eye. Then Amirul Mu'mineen, the commander of the faithful, beautifully here states in Sermon 134, in giving us beautiful, amazing advice, فَإِنَّهُ وَاللَّهِ الْجِدُّ لَلَّعِبِ. The Imam says, life is not a game. Do not take it as a game. Wallah, this is serious. Take life seriously. The journey to the akhirah is a serious journey. وَالْحَقُّ لَلْكَذِبِ. This is the truth. This is not falsehood. No one's joking around here. وَمَا هُوَ إِلَّا الْمَوْتِ أَسْمَعَ دَاعِيهِ. You're playing and fooling around, and then suddenly you see death calling on you. Suddenly death snatches you and seizes you. And when death calls on you, you can't say no. When your friend invites you, calls on you, you can choose to say yes or no. Right? Anyone who calls on you, you can choose to say yes or no. Not death. When death arrives at your door, you cannot say no to death. The Imam alayhi salam says, take this life seriously. Death is around the corner and it's calling on you. It's a matter of minutes, hours, or days, or weeks, or years before you're gone. Are you ready for that? Have you prepared yourself for that? Then the Imam alayhi salam beautifully states, فَلَا يَغُرَّنَّكَ سَوَادُ النَّاسِ مِن نَفْسِكَ. Don't be deceived by the big numbers around you. People who clap for you, who give you likes. Don't be deceived by that. Sometimes we live in an imaginary world. We don't live in a real world. We create our own bubble. If I feel like I'm popular on social media, I'm getting comments, I'm getting likes, I'm getting reactions, that means I'm invincible, I'm strong, who can bring me down? And I become arrogant. And that arrogance gets to me. That fame gets to me. The Imam says, don't be fooled or deceived by big numbers. You see others having a big following. You yourself develop a big following. Attract a lot of followers. Don't be deceived by that. Because that usually deceives us. It's an illusion. You live in illusion. Then the Imam alayhi salam states, فَقَدْ رَأَيْتَ مَنْ كَانَ قَبْلَكَ مِمَّنْ جَمَعَ الْمَالِ وَحَذَرَ الْإِقْلَالِ وَأَمِنَ الْعَوَاقِبِ. You've seen people before you who gathered money, they had more money than you. And people who felt safe, invincible, powerful. طُولَ أَمَلٍ وَاسْتِبْعَادَ أَجَلٍ. They had long hopes in this world. And they didn't think that death would seize them that soon. كَيْفَ نَزَلَ بِهِ الْمَوْتِ. Did you not see those before you, how death snatched them? Pop stars, they've been snatched by death. Politicians, wealthy people, billionaires. Death is going to come after everyone. Don't be fooled by numbers and quantity and wealth and fame. Death is going to seize everyone. Then the Imam alayhi salam states, أَمَا رَأَيْتُمْ الَّذِينَ يَأْمُلُونَ بَعِيدًا. Have you not seen those who have very long hopes? وَيَبْنُونَ مَشِيدًا. And they build these skyscrapers, palaces, big, beautiful buildings. وَيَجْمَعُونَ كَثِيرًا. They accumulate all that wealth. Have you not seen what? أَصْبَحَتْ بُيُوتُهُمْ قُبُورًا. Their homes, their houses have turned into graves. Yes. The palaces of the past, the kingdoms of the past, where are they now? Many of those homes turned into graves. And all the homes you see today, pretty much one day will turn into graves. وَمَا جَمَعُوا بُورًا. Everything they gathered went to loss because they could not take it with them to the hereafter. وَصَارَتْ أَمْوَالُهُمْ لِلْوَارِثِينَ. You think they took their money with them? Their money was transferred to their inheritors. You don't own anything in this world. That's the reality. Allah has given you some money to borrow. And when you die, your inheritors will take over your money. The hard-earned money, the money that you sweat for, others will inherit it. Some people kill themselves day and night to work so hard and accumulate so much wealth, such that they fall short in raising a good family. They miss their family obligations. They miss their salah. They miss their Quran. They miss learning about Islam because they're so busy, obsessed with their business and the stock market and accumulating wealth and the real estate. You don't even have any time to rest. Who are you saving this money for? Death will snatch you and all that money is going to go to others. But on the Day of Judgment, Allah will hold you responsible. Did you make this money from halal or from haram? Your inheritors are enjoying the money, but you're going to pay the price for it. You're going to be punished for it. If you did not earn it from a lawful source, if you did not pay your religious dues, the sadaqah and the zakat and the khums and the share of the poor, Allah will hold you accountable for that. If you missed your obligations because of your obsession with your business, Allah will hold you accountable for that. The Imam alayhi salam here is giving us a wake-up call. Don't be obsessed with this dunya. And don't worry about your family. Leave something behind for them. They have Allah. I know the attitude of some fathers, they kill themselves. Like one father who literally was working 18 hours a day. I honestly don't know how you can work 18 hours a day. When do you sleep? When do you eat? I don't know. Are you ever willing to sacrifice for Allah 10 hours a day? But subhanAllah, for this dunya, there are people who give 18 hours a day. He barely sees his children. When you ask him, what's the matter with you? Why are you working yourself to death like that? I have daughters. I have children. I want to buy each one of them a house. Who told you to kill yourself so you can buy a house for your daughter or son? Who told you that? What, there's no razaq after you? Allah is not the sustainer? And who told you your children are even appreciating that? Now when you ask his children, they tell you, we barely see our father. Who told him to go and do that? Your children need you as a father figure now. Your children don't need a house when you die. Allah's the Razzaq, He's the sustainer, He'll take care of them, they'll figure it out. But your children need your guidance, your compassion, your fatherly role in the house. That's what they need. And then the Imam alayhi salam finally states, وَأَزْوَاجُهُمْ لِقَوْمٍ آخَرِينَ. This one's painful. Even your loved ones, those whom you love and you're willing to die for, even those after you die, they'll move on, they'll marry someone else. They'll fall in love with someone else. Sometimes in this world, when you look at love stories, relationships, you find that some people fall deep into a relationship, head over heels, excessively, deep love. And that person becomes their object of worship in the universe. They cannot see but that person. They cannot function without that person. They wake up, that person's on their mind. That person has captivated every cell in their heart. Look, you don't own anyone, even your loved one whom you're in love with right now. You think that's going to stay forever? Things change. One day that love can subside. One day that person can move on. There could be a divorce, a breakup. That person will marry someone else. You could die and that person will marry someone else. You think you even own your spouse? You don't own anything in this world. Your spouse whom you killed yourself for. When you die, after a while your spouse will move on with their life. Yes, I know for a lot of you that's painful, but that's the reality. That's what the Imam here is teaching us. Only give your heart fully to Allah. If you give your heart to anything in this world, it's going to devastate your heart. And you don't own anything in this world. You don't own your money. After you, it's going to be distributed to others. You don't even own your loved one. You don't even own your relationships. They will be broken one day. Others will move on. You'll move on. There's nothing that you own. The only thing that you own is your deeds. That's the only thing that you will take when you leave this dunya. These are the beautiful words of the commander of the faithful, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Truly the words of Amir al-Mu'mineen rejuvenate the heart. And here in Masjid al-Kufa, we are commemorating the legacy of Muslim ibn Aqil, the warrior, the ambassador of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, the ambassador of Imam Hussein. One of the beautiful lessons that Muslim ibn Aqil teaches us is to let go of this world when your time comes. You don't think Muslim ibn Aqil had children? You don't think he had Hamida, that daughter? Muslim knew when he was going to Kufa that danger was awaiting. You don't think he knew? You don't think Muslim ibn Aqil had heard the mutawatir, sahih, successive hadiths of the Prophet that Hussein is going to be killed in Iraq? You don't think he's heard that? Every Muslim had heard that. All the companions of the Prophet knew that. He knew that going to Iraq was dangerous and that he would not come back alive. But Muslim ibn Aqil, he let go of this world. For the sake of Allah, for the sake of the Imam of my time, I'm willing to cut ties with the materialism of this world. I'm even willing to leave my family behind. He had a daughter by the name of Hamida. If you have a daughter, you know how difficult it is to leave your family knowing that you'll never go back. And that after you, your daughter is going to be orphaned. Who can do that? But Muslim ibn Aqil did. He accepted to represent Imam Hussein when he dispatched him to Kufa, and he went to Kufa. And he did exactly as Imam Hussein instructed him. Until the very last minute, we're here in Kufa. They tied him and they took him on the roof of the palace of the evil governor Ibn Ziyad. Till that last moment, he did not lose hope from the mercy of Allah. He did not lose faith. All he did was turn to the direction of Imam Hussein alayhi salam towards Mecca, and he gave his salam, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Peace be upon you, O Aba Abdullah. It's as if he wanted to tell the Imam, Imam, I know you have to come here, your fate is here, but I also wish that you don't come here, because these evil people have already betrayed you and they want to kill you. Peace be upon you, O Muslim ibn Aqil. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وننزل من القرآن